Guys, my name is Alibrando from IWI US, and we're going to be discussing how to install the Gen 4 charging handle. We're offering these now in the web store. A lot of our newer X95s that are coming out are going to have this installed. The original IDF handle was very similar to this, but it was very difficult to manipulate. That's why we had a Gen 2, which is what came to the US, and you'll see that difference when I pull the Gen 2 out. The Gen 4 is easier to manipulate, but it has an extra leverage piece located on the bottom. What that does is if you get a stuck casing or something like that, it's going to give you a little bit more leverage to pull that stuck casing out. That's why they did that on the original SAR. But for the US market, like I said, the IDF handle was kind of difficult to run, so we didn't want that one. This one's a lot easier to run. So if you get it, this is how to install it. And by way of installing this, we're also going to show you how to pull the flash suppressor off and use the jam nut, or using the jam nut properly. So when you get your charging handle, it comes in a kit. You have the handle here. You have a collar that goes on the barrel, and it kind of looks like a little bit like a hammerhead. I basically call it a hammerhead. And then you get a giant roll pin, which is what attaches the collar to the barrel itself. There's always been a cutout on the X95 barrel for that piece. It's just we haven't been using it. So let's talk about installing it. To install the actual charging handle, you have to remove the flash suppressor. But before we do any of that, we have to verify the weapon is clear, right? So first thing we'll do, lock it to the rear, verify, yep, chamber, bolt face, mag's clear, weapon's good to go. And what we're going to do is, and you've seen this in another video, we're just going to remove the bolt carrier. And we got to remove the bolt group because you're going to end up having to pull the barrel off, and you don't want the barrel to be locked into the bolt itself, so you got to remove that. We'll close that and get rid of it. All right, so while it's intact or together, I like to remove the actual flash suppressor because you got a lot more mass back here. It's easier to take off. You're going to need two 19mm wrenches, okay? One wrench is going to go on the jam nut. One wrench actually goes on the flash suppressor. And the way this jam nut works, and we'll get a close-up of this a little bit later on, but the way this jam nut works is this actually turns itself into the back of the flash suppressor, and there's pressure or tension, and that's what keeps this from moving. It's not a crush washer. So you can set the actual flash suppressor to the exact right spot that you need it to be for the, the vents or whatnot, and then jam the jam nut behind it, and it's set, it's done. It's a nice 90-degree angle, okay? So what we're gonna do is put the wrench on the jam nut, the other one on the flash suppressor itself. There's a cutout for that, and we're going to pull in this hand. This has got to go to the left like it's unscrewing, and I've actually got to screw the jam nut down to the right, so they're going to oppose each other. Boom, and it'll pop just like that. And there we go. We remove both the jam nut and the flash suppressor. We're going to set that off to the side. Now, if you're going to take the fore end off and you've got an aftermarket flash suppressor that's bigger than this flash suppressor, the GI1, okay, you're going to need to remove the flash suppressor no matter what, especially if it's larger. If you use our flash suppressor, this fore end will come off, but in the case of the collar, it's got to slip over the barrel, so you have to remove that. All right, so I'm going to take the charging handle. I'm just going to push it down, kind of get it out of the way. I use a 3mm Allen wrench. Unscrew this one side here. Okay, it's a lot easier when I lay it down. There we go. Once you get it started, pull it out. Now, when you put this, reinstall it, blue Loctite on all the screws. Okay, blue Loctite, not red, blue Loctite. Okay. Then you take a regular Phillips screwdriver and unscrew the pistol grip itself. And again, if you're going to change a pistol grip, if you buy an aftermarket pistol grip from us, it's not aftermarket, it's ours technically, and you want to lose the cutlass, this is how you would actually install the other pistol grip. You just put it on. It's got one long screw. Remember, blue Loctite when you put it back on. Pull that off, okay? Now, grab the fore end, pull it straight up. This is very important when you're pulling the barrel off. This is in another segment. Pull the charging handle out before you turn anything, okay? You need to get rid of this charging handle anyway. This is the Gen 2 charging handle that was initially brought to the US. This is the Gen 4, and that's where you can kind of see that comparison right there, okay? All right, so put that off to the side. Now we're gonna have to remove the barrel. Okay, to remove the barrel, again, this is another segment. I'm gonna take a punch, and you have to depress this tongue out of the way here so it pops up, okay? You're gonna bring the weapon under your armpit, kind of like a crutch. You're gonna take a barrel wrench, which you need to have. Install the barrel wrench, push the tongue out of the way. You're gonna pull back so it goes from locked to open. You just keep turning it till the line's in the open position. Grab the barrel, pull the barrel out, and now you're ready to work on this barrel. Now, you have one other piece that's on here. And this is that, it's a Teflon ring. It just keeps dirt from getting in there and it abates heat. And what you can do is just take a pair of needle nose pliers, kind of get in the groove, pry it apart, if possible. Kind of pry it apart to get it started. And push down in that groove while you get it apart, because you do have to take this thing off, okay? There we go. This is now off. I'm gonna put that off to the side. Now the entire barrel is cleaned off. We can get the ring actually on there. Now this has to go on in a very specific way. It can go on the wrong direction, so this is kind of important. What you want to do is, if you'll notice, their hammerhead, there's a part that kind of juts forward. There's an opening in the back. So when the charging handle is actually in the weapon, in the barrel, okay, this D10 here fits into this opening in the front. So for it to fit properly, that hammerhead has to face forward. So it looks like it has eyes, the eyes face forward. And when it clamps on, that clicks in. And that's the orientation of the charging handle when it's in the weapon, when it's complete. So you can put this ring on backwards, right? And it won't work. The bolt won't seat, you can't get it together. So remember, the eyes of the hammerhead, these eyes up front, have to face forward, have to face the muzzle, and you're good to go. Now the toughest part of this whole process is driving this roll pin in, okay? So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna get the orientation of the hammerhead, and it's gonna go all the way back to this back ring where that cutout is. That's what that was for initially, okay? And all X95s have it. Now we have a jig that we made up to actually accommodate this whole setup, okay? If you don't have a jig, which most people probably aren't, we made this out of hockey pucks, you know, it's really simple, but it works extremely well. If you don't have a jig, what you need to do is get a piece of wood or a slat of wood and support underneath, so when you're pounding the actual roll pin in, that it actually seats. It's got something to resist it. Okay, so what I do to align it is I grab a 4mm punch, and what I want to do is I want to run that right through to make sure that this is aligned with that actual groove, because if I just start driving the pin in, it's not going to go in if it's not aligned properly. So I like to use this as a slave. I'll slave it in, I get it set, I take the pin and I put it in. Then you start hammering. Okay, so once you drive the pin in, I use that 4mm punch, and what I'm doing is I'm making sure that it's completely flush. It's got to be flush on either side. That pin is the exact right size. Now, once you get this on, understand that this is going to be difficult to move laterally, and that's normal. It's supposed to be hard to move. What you don't realize, what you may not realize, is inside the handguard itself, there's a cutout that accommodates this piece. It's always been there. It's just something we haven't needed. So it's got to be very difficult. Once it's aligned and it's set, you have to align this and a couple other things before you put the handguard on. All right, so we're going to put the ring back on. Some will ask, do I need the ring? The answer is, it's up to you. It keeps debris from getting in the gun. From a heat standpoint, it's not that big a deal. Okay, so to put the flash suppressor back on the weapon, okay? What you're gonna do is you're gonna put the jam nut all the way to the back. That's gonna go right to the shoulder and it's gonna stop, okay? Then I'm gonna put the flash suppressor on. Now, I'm gonna screw the flash suppressor all the way back, but it's not gonna be properly aligned at all. Okay, see now it's off to the side, it's not where I want it. So what you do is you end up backing off the flash suppressor till it's aligned properly. Then I kind of get the jam nut started where I want it to be. Now there's a lot of ways of checking the alignment of this. One of the ways that I do it is I look through the top vent and I pop up the front sight and I use this as an aperture and I use that as a front sight and I kind of get it centered on the aperture and I go, yup, that's about where I want it. And then what I'll end up doing is I want to hold the flash suppressor in that spot, and what I'll do is I'll take the jam nut and I'll put it back down again. Now you can do this now or you can do this at the end. Again, if you have a flash suppressor that's larger than the charging handle, you're going to put this on after the gun's been reassembled. Me, I'm not worried about it. It's good to go, okay? So there it is, it's aligned. It's good to go. Looking through the aperture, yep, it's set. Now I'm gonna start reassembling the weapon because this is all good to go. I'm gonna take the barrel, drop it back in. Easiest way to do it, put it straight down, jam it all the way to the stop, use gravity, and you wanna make sure it's all the way down before you turn the barrel lock because you don't wanna dig the barrel lock into anything but that groove that it's supposed to go into. Put the charging handle, or put the barrel wrench in its spot, and I turn it up. I put this under my armpit like a crutch again, and I'm gonna pull this down. I'm gonna feel tension. I hear the click. I know that that has fallen back into the groove and it's good to go. So we're all set. Now to put the charging handle in, a little different. You're gonna have to move the hammerhead out of the way. You have to push it off to one side so I can drop the charging handle in. And it can go either direction. Goes in the hole, drops in, and then it goes straight down. Now it's good to go. Now I have to turn that hammerhead back where it's completely straight upright, okay? Now before you put the fore end back on, you got to make sure two things are aligned. The hammerhead is straight up and down, and that this ring, this opening, this gap is facing down. When you put it back on, what I do is I'll squeeze it down so it kind of traps itself around the barrel again with the gap facing straight down. Then I grab the fore end, I'm going to bring it over the top, and what I need to do is cover both the actual ring and then the hammerhead. I make a small adjustment so it goes over that hammerhead and it drops right in. Hang on. There we go. So that's now aligned and it's all put back in there, good to go. Take the screw that runs from right to left. You're going to put that blue Loctite on it, put it in. This is an armor gun, so I'm not too concerned about it because going to another armor class here soon. We'll take it apart. Screw it back down. Take a pistol grip. Drop the pistol grip back in. And remember, it's just a regular Phillips screw, blue Loctite. Push it down. Screw it in place. Make sure it's good and tight. This charging handle should flow pretty freely right now before you even put the bolt on. I always check it that it goes forward and into the lock position. I can feel that it's locked. Pull it back, push forward, yep, good to go. Put the bolt back in. Close it. Cycle it a couple times. Make sure it's moving freely and easily, okay? Lock the bolt to the rear. And remember, always do a function test. Whenever I pull a gun apart, put it back together again. I'll function test it, and if you get a chance, I'd always test fire it as well. Even though I know the headspace is right, it's all good to go. If your life's dependent on this system, if you're a law enforcement officer or whatnot, then you always want to test fire it before you go back, confirm zero, that it's good to go. Okay, so we'll do a quick function test. Weapon's clear, press the trigger, nothing happens, weapon on fire. Hold the trigger to the rear, cycle the bolt, fill reset. The weapon is now functioning properly. So guys, that's how you install the newer charging handle, the Gen 4 charging handle in the X95. When you order one, you're going to get those components. These are the tools you need. And if you have any questions, look us up at IWI.us.